Batman 5 and Superman Dawn of Justice are the two new movies in the DC Cinematic Universe.
No, dude, it's one movie. It's Batman versus Superman.
That wouldn't make any sense. If it's versus, it would have a V and an S. Why would it just have a V? That doesn't make any fucking sense, man.
That's just what they did, man. I don't tell you. Did you even see the fucking movie? How can you mistake the one for two?
And Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice is the second movie in the DC Cinematic Universe and really the first to be a launching pad and pretty much the basis for all the rest of the DC movies to come out after this. It's directed by Zack Snyder and stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and a bunch of other people. First off, I want to say Ben Affleck was good, if not great, as Bruce Wayne and Batman. He, to me, of all the people that have played Bruce Wayne and Batman on screen, he, to me, seems to most embody the character. He kind of just looks like a comic book character. And he's got a really intimidating physical presence to him that was lacking in some of the other Batmans, especially the Burton Schumacher Batmans. Adam West, though, he was huge. Go back and watch those. Fucking jacked, bro. And what's a good Batman without his Alfred? Jeremy Irons was a very different Alfred than we've seen in the past. The first go-around with the Burton Schumacher films, Michael Gough, that Alfred seemed more like a father figure than anything. He was very good. And then Michael Caine really brought an emotional weight to it, and he seemed very wise and caring. And this one is a smartass, and he helps Batman, and he seems like he'd kind of be able to hold his own in a fight, if not so much now, definitely back at his prime. It's a different type of Alfred, and it works very well. Henry Cavill is also back as Superman, and I think he, again, does a good job, although he doesn't really have that much to do in the movie. And that's part of the problem I have with the movie. I'll get back to it in a little bit. Coming back as Perry White, you have Lawrence Fishburne, and he's not in it very much either, but he's a good supporting role, and he has a lot of funny lines in the movie, and he's actually used quite well. He was used, it seemed like, the proper amount. They didn't overdo his character. He's kind of a side character anyway, and especially in a movie where Superman's not even the main character, making him anything more than just a side kind of comic relief character would have been a misstep, and they did good with Lawrence Fishburne. Amy Adams as Lois Lane. She's probably the best Lois Lane we've had. She's got a lot of spunk to her. She really embodies the investigative reporter that doesn't take shit from anyone. The action scenes in the movie were shot very well, and a lot of them were framed and looked like comic books come to life. There's a few shots that look like they were exact copies of panels from something like The Dark Knight Returns. Okay, now it's time to start getting in the bad parts of it. And the first thing I want to say is this movie is several different movies. The way to follow up Man of Steel and properly set this movie up would have been to do a new solo Batman movie. I know it would have been close to when the Nolan movies came out, and it would have been pretty quick to reboot it, but they should have, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to do this universe like this. They should have done that. They should have had a movie that mostly took place before Man of Steel and then kind of ended at the beginning of Man of Steel, and that would have properly set up Batman and his character. But instead, that is all kind of shoehorned into this movie. So that should have been the next movie, and that should have been the next movie after Man of Steel. After that, there should have been Man of Steel 2, which is also crammed into Batman vs. Superman. It's like this whole question about who... It's almost like Watchmen, like who watches the Watchmen? Well, I guess it's not quite, because they're all kind of fucking fucked up. So it is that question, though, who watches over the superheroes, and whether or not Superman should be allowed to be Superman, and who does he answer to, those questions. And I think that should have been its own movie. You could have had Batman in it a little bit if you already established his character, but make Superman the central character and make that his movies, told from his point of view. But this movie is mainly told from Batman's point of view, with Superman sprinkled in, and Superman has the better story. Batman is mostly an introduction, and you're kind of getting why he is the way he is, somewhat. You're getting it in small doses, and it doesn't always make sense. And this movie kind of makes Batman a dickhead for a decent amount of it. Like, I get where he's coming from to a point, but then he draws hard lines in the sand in a way where I don't think there's proper motivation for it. And the fight with Superman, while it is awesome, and it's something that I've wanted to see most of my life, and again, it is awesome, it ends abruptly and it doesn't make sense. And about halfway through, well, not halfway through, towards the end of the fight, it's just Batman acting like a dickhead. And he's looking like he's a murderous dickhead. And that is another problem I have, is that Batman kills people in this movie. And I didn't necessarily have a problem when he did it in Burton's films. In Burton's films, though, it was a very different Batman. And it wasn't meant to be like the comic book come to life. It was very stylized, and it was definitely Burton's take on the character. This, though, it's meant to look like a comic book come to life. Large sections and ideas from the movie are taken straight out of comic books, specifically Dark Knight Returns, but you're not going to follow his moral code. You didn't bring that along with it, and I don't understand why they wouldn't have done that. That is strange to me. I can understand why why Batman could kill in a movie series. I can't understand why you would try to take comic book version of Batman, even that suit and the kind of world that he's in, and then make him kill. I don't understand that. Lex Luthor, or Lex Luthor Jr., is also in the movie. I don't have a problem with Jesse Eisenberg in the movie. I think Jesse Eisenberg did the best he could with what he was given. That's the type of character they're trying to go for, some kind of wisecracking, more new age CEO, not like the old industrialist, or like, 80s, 90s businessman that's just the evil head of an empire. This guy is supposed to be, like he works at Google, kind of. At least he kind of comes across that way. His take on the character, I liked him. I liked what he did with what he was given, because the character had to be written that way to begin with. So they cast Jesse Eisenberg because they wanted that character. With what he was given, he did a good job. And there's a speech he gives kind of early on in the movie, which I liked, and he kind of loses his train of thought and starts tweaking out a little bit. And I liked that. It showed that he's not exactly in control. I liked that. I didn't necessarily like their version of Lex, though. So I would have preferred they did something else, more like an older, more menacing figure. But given that they went for this version of Lex, I think Eisenberg did a good job. That being said, Lex's plot in the movie should have been dwindled down. He should have barely been in the movie at all. He should have more or less been a cameo towards the end, and that would have been better served. I don't want to go into more specifics. I don't want to spoil anything, so that's all I'm going to say as to my thoughts on Lex. As far as Wonder Woman, she's not in the movie very much, and I think she should have been cut out of the film. But she was pretty awesome in the movie. I liked her. They did a very good job with her, and her entrance and her fight scenes and her overall look was really good. I liked how they did her in the movie. I don't think that she needed to be in there. I think it cluttered it up. It's a 2.5 hour long movie that needed more room to breathe. And I think that they should have just cut her out. There's also the shoehorned introduction, or like mini trailers almost, or mini origin stories for some of the Justice League members. And that really shouldn't have been in the movie. If he did it at all, maybe do it as a post-credit scene. By the way, there is no post-credit scene in this movie. The ending fight of the movie, which you've seen teased in the last trailer, or one of the many fucking trailers there are for it, with Doomsday, it's a good fight, and it allows them to really show what some of the characters can do, and it was good in that respect. Some of the things I didn't like about it is they did do a lot of destruction, not as much destruction as they did at the end of Man of Steel. And then they had a couple throwaway lines as to why there wouldn't be people getting hurt. So anyway, the fight with Doomsday, it was a good fight. The very ending of the movie seemed cheap and unearned, and it didn't have the impact it should have because the movie was too jumbled. As I said, this is probably like 3 separate movies just jammed into one. They just tried to do too much. This just kind of reeks of studio interference. You'd think that they would have learned from the mistakes of other studios, but they didn't. They just wanted to cram everything in there without the proper work up to it. So with all of those complaints being said, it's not a terrible movie. It's not a boring movie. It's a fun movie. It's just too much. They need to like take out a lot of the subplots. You could even take out a character or two, and it would do better. So again, Ben Affleck is a good Batman. Henry Cavill delivers another solid performance as the Man of Steel. And the supporting cast is very good. It's just kind of a jumbled mess. Not a terrible movie, but not as good as it should have been. Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice is rated C+. So given that Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice is a team-up and a versus movie, name some characters, comics or otherwise, that you would like to see in a movie either team up or go against each other. Two I would like to see go against each other are Rambo and the Predator. I just think that's a perfect fit. Do I do to explain that one? It's a monster in a jungle versus a guy in a jungle. So anyway, name two characters you'd like to see either go against each other or team up in a movie. Make your mark below in the comments section. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. So given that Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, that's a fucking mouthful. Right off the bat, I want to say Ben Affleck was good, if not great, as Ben Affleck. He's great as Ben Affleck is fantastic as Ben Affleck. By the way, I think somebody was crying right next to me. The fuck is that about? It's a comic book movie and she's bawling. They had a couple throwaway lines as to why there wouldn't be people getting hurt. So it was like you wanted to have your cake and eat it too. Which, by the way, it doesn't. That phrase doesn't make any sense to me. Because does anybody want to hold cake? You just want to hold it forever. I want to have this cake, never to eat. The whole point of the fucking cake is to eat it. So why is the phrase that you want to have your cake and eat it too? The point of having the cake is so you can't eat it. It's a dumb phrase.